Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of High Live. We are here on the Monday night at HiCom HQ, and this week we have a video game production special, and we have a special guest who will be joining us very, very shortly. But before that time, I will say a quick hello to Matthias.
Hi, Rod.
And how's everything with you, Matthias? Have you had a good weekend?
Oh yeah, weekend was very fun. Like we're playing football into the heat. We played good. We didn't win, but we played good. So very happy to be here, and I think tonight's going to be a very thrilled evening.
Yeah,
a lot of things.
Must have been pretty hot though, playing football though, right?
Yeah. I can feel it on my legs today.
I can imagine. Yeah.
What about yourself?
Maybe a couple of more days after that as well. I had quite a relaxing one. Just a bit of walking, a bit of working out. Did a bit of cooking as usual. Lots of relaxing. I like to catch up a little bit on my sleep during the weekends as well. So, just wanted to make sure that you can all hear us.
Stefan is like, are you good at football?
Oh, are you good at football? Well, I think Stefan already knows the answer to that at the moment. I'm completely out of practice for the last 3 or 4 years due to a very well-known injury.
and for people who will be talking about that on the chat today, PSG lost the Champions League, but I'm from the south, so I'm not feeling bad about them losing the Champions final. Yeah. So you can make jokes about it. I will laugh, don't worry.
Yeah, okay. David's asking us, when is Jackie Chan coming on the show? Well, we've had a call, we've had a chat with him already, and he's not sure yet, and he says he's a little bit busy, but we'll try him again to see if he wants to come on at some point. But we're still working on that one. So watch this space, David. So there we go. Yeah. So following on from our gaming stream that we had a few weeks ago with Burkan, we are now going to the other side of gaming. So we had Burkan on the stream a few weeks ago, talking about his gaming community, focusing on playing the games and actually fans of the games, and
how to manage a community as well, a gaming community.
Yeah.
But today, as you said, we'll be on the other side of what's happening on the video game studio.
That's exactly right. So we're going behind the scenes this week, and we're going to have a look at actually how the games are made and how they end up on your screens. And so we have Florian coming on in just a few seconds to explain a little bit more about that. So
exactly. I'll leave my seat to Flo, which is going to.
So I think we'll crack on. So first of all, I'm going to ask Flo just a few basic questions, as my gaming knowledge is fairly limited compared to Matthias's, and Matthias is going to take over with some more technical questions. So first of all, Florian, I'll just ask you a few questions.
Hi everybody.
Welcome to the show, Florian. Thanks a lot for coming in. Great pleasure for you to be here. So we'll just get on with a few questions. So first of all, when did you first get involved in video games?
Well, 20 years ago actually. I started working in France as a game designer.
Yeah.
So I've been doing games for 20 years, mostly as a game designer. And a few years ago, I transitioned to being a producer.
Okay. So first of all, you were actually making them, or?
Yeah, making them. So a game designer is a person who is in charge of the rules, create the rules of the game, helps creating the world of the game, all the content, decide what is the content of the game. There's a lot of different jobs within the game design specialty, and you can have people writing rules, you can have people building the world, the locations, you can have people changing, tuning how weapon will feel and so on. And my main job for me was creating rules.
Okay, great. And were you already a gamer? Was it already something that you were really passionate about before you started working in the industry?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was a gamer already in the 90s. I started quite late actually. I didn't have a computer when I was young.
Okay.
But yeah, at university I started playing games.
Yeah, such as? Any particular favorites?
Civilization was my first one. Yeah, I spent hours on that. I started as a strategy games player. Played a lot of strategy games, and then I transitioned to FPS, action games. I was a PC gamer first.
Okay, yeah.
Uh,
Which PC? Going back a few years, I guess. Was that a C64 or something?
Oh, my first one was an Amiga.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I was going
Yeah,
to say it's just
Amiga 1,
so
I
that was
think.
the one after the Amiga.
Yeah, no, exactly. It was.
So it was the one
not
after
a-
the C64.
Yes,
then you had
exactly.
The Amiga,
Yeah, it was good memories.
Showing my age as well.
Yes, exactly. We can see both that here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I started playing a lot of games.
Mhm.
But at that time, when I started playing, the game designer job did not exist, and it came more and more popular in the late 90s.
Mhm.
So in '99, I read about it in some magazine,
Mhm.
paper magazine that still
Sure.
existed in that time,
Uh-huh.
and I was really curious about it.
Yeah.
I was already working on computers, doing different stuff, and I thought, okay, that's very interesting. So I had the chance to start working on a game in 2000.
Great. I see. That's excellent. I see. So and so when you started, when you actually started working on the games, that was with a company in France? Or-
Yes.
Yeah.
So the first company was called Cryo. I don't know how you pronounce it in English.
How's it spelled?
Cryo.
Cryo.
They're kind of famous, I know.
Cryo, I guess.
Cryo. They were
Cryo,
famous back
Cryo.
in the day.
Yeah.
They're gone since.
All right.
So yeah,
Did
I
they
worked.
get taken over by someone else, or?
No, they closed down.
Oh, I see.
What game were they producing?
Historical point and click games, Egypt, stuff like that.
Ah, ouais, okay.
Yeah, so I worked on that. I worked in few companies. I never worked at Ubisoft, which is a famous the most
Ubisoft.
famous French publisher.
Mhm.
And I'm one of the few French person you'll meet
That
in the
haven't
game
worked
industry
there.
that never worked at
Yeah.
Ubisoft.
I see.
Uh,
I guess that's a question that you get asked a lot.
yes, quite a lot. But yeah, so I worked in a lot of companies. Most notably, worked at Sony London, fantastic
Great.
company,
Mhm.
great studio doing PlayStation games.
Yeah, that was in London as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So how many years?
3
were you-
years.
3 years. Great.
Yes, worked in
That must have been great. Yeah.
yeah, fantastic place.
Yeah.
Really great.
Mm.
Doing PlayStation 2 games
Wow.
and the first PlayStation 3 games.
Fantastic. Amazing.
Great. And just after that, I went to China.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So what year was that you came to China?
2007.
So, I see.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
So,
That's
yeah,
2 decades ago.
13
already.
years, yeah, so 13 years.
Yes.
Yeah, no, it's incredible how many people that I still feel quite new actually compared to some.
For you?
It's been 7 years, but I still
You're a baby.
I still meet I meet so many people that have been here longer than me, and it's actually more usual to meet
I know a lot
people
of
that have
people
actually
who've
been here
been
longer than I have.
Exactly.
It still feels like I'm fairly new, I guess. But yeah, brilliant. So and that was because you answered a job application here, or
So I was working at Sony, great place again, but I wanted to go to Asia, and so I got contacted by a company here.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I wanted to go to Japan, but it was difficult to get a game job in Japan at that time. So I looked on the map and I thought, well, Shanghai is really close to Japan, so I could go there every weekend. You know, so I moved here, and then I looked at the price ticket of return ticket to Tokyo,
Yeah.
and that changed a lot my plans. But yeah, but I also wanted to come to China. I've been there before, and I really like the culture.
Mhm.
So I was really excited to come to China for that.
Is it sort of like a dream job for a lot of people who work in gaming to work in Japan then, first of all? Or is that what a lot of people aim to do? Or
Not necessarily to work in Japan. To work in games is a dream job.
Mhm.
I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people would love to work in Japan indeed, because
Mhm.
you know they have great companies like Nintendo, Sony,
Sure.
and so on. So yeah, definitely a lot of people would be excited to work there. Yes.
Yeah. So you applied for a job in China though.
Yes.
In Shanghai.
Yeah. So I was contacted for a job in China. I didn't really know what to expect. And I
So
said
you
yes.
went straight to SHENGQU, or did you work for
No,
another
so
company first?
I worked in few companies in China.
Mhm.
Maybe the most famous one was Electronic Arts, EA.
Oh wow.
I worked
Yeah,
at
sure.
EA.
It's
I
in the
worked at
game.
Paramount.
It's in the game.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you worked on FIFA and.
No, I
you're
worked
quite-
on a
hockey
FPS game called Plant vs Zombie Garden Warfare. So
Ah.
you take the mobile game, PC game Plant vs Zombie, which is a turn-based, and you put it into a FPS multiplayer, and you have plants fighting zombies, and it's really fun. And they made a new one last year, which was also really fun. I recommend it. For kids, good.
Great.
If you want your kids to shoot at people, but not people, but plants or zombies, I recommend that game.
Okay. And then, so after EA, you moved on to SHENGQU Games after that? Or is
No,
there
no, no.
even more,
No, there's more stops.
I guess
Yeah,
13 years is quite a long time.
yeah, no,
so
exactly. But
things,
so
I guess, move quickly here.
exactly. So I've been at SHENGQU last year. So SHENGQU is a before it was known as Shenda. They're an old Chinese company, game company.
Yeah.
Very famous. They did a lot of MMORPG on PC. They're still doing. They're doing mobile games as well. And right now I'm working on a game called Fallout Shelter Online.
Wow.
So it's a sequel to Fallout Shelter, the mobile game, which was based on the Fallout RPG games. And so this is a RPG game, hero collecting in the Fallout universe that's been released in China since last year and been released in Asia this year.
Great. Yeah, sounds amazing. So most of the games that you're developing these days are mobile based.
Yes. So these days I'm doing mobile games. So I've done PC games, handheld games like PSP and Nintendo, DS, console games,
Switch.
and mobile games. No, not yet the Switch.
Right. Okay. So it's mainly more just games on the mobile. Then,
Yes, and specifically games that are free to download.
I see.
And you pay inside when you want
And
something.
that's Android and iPhone, or
Yes.
is it?
Android and
They're
iOS.
they're compatible for both.
Yes, no. Usually you do a game, you support iOS and Android.
Okay. Someone's saying I love Plant vs Zombie.
Yes.
I don't have the actual name. I don't know who that was. The person who said
The
that.
Plant vs Zombie.
Yeah.
Fantastic game.
Someone said it was just down there. That I love Plant vs Zombie. Who was that?
They didn't know.
Yeah, maybe.
No,
So
no.
I don't actually know. I know. It's Stefan.
Oh, Stefan.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Stefan. Okay. There we are. I was just going to ask you just a few basic questions, and then Matthias, who's a little bit more knowledgeable on the gaming side than I am, is going to take over. So, want to come over? Great to talk to you, Brian.
Thank you.
And and we can also get the YouTube going as well.
At some point I can show some
and you
YouTube
can do a
videos.
sort of
Let's
presentation.
Listen up.
Huh? Yeah, of course. Yeah, sorry. Might need those.
Feel free if you have any
A
questions.
little prompts for you.
You can ask.
So if you've got any questions in the chat, then feel free, keep them coming, and we'll get them answered. Cheers, guys.
I'm back. First, actually, you said you never work at Ubisoft, but as a French person, how come you never work at Ubisoft? What happened? Tell me more about that.
It's a good question. That's a nasty question. No, I had many jobs interviews.
Okay.
I just didn't make it to the final proposal.
Okay.
I don't know why. There's something missing about me. I don't know. But yes, I never worked at Ubisoft.
Okay.
Actually, it was my very first game interview at Ubisoft
really?
Paris as a QA tester,
Okay.
which is normally like an easy job to get.
Oh, yeah?
And even this one I didn't get. It was in '99.
Oh, yeah. Well, c'est la vie. Hein.
Yes, but also, back in the days, I was like a strategy game player. Ubisoft was doing a lot of action platformers and stuff. I never played Rayman before, so definitely going to Ubisoft and haven't played Rayman, that was not a good point for me.
Oh yeah, but Rayman was a good game.
No, it was a really good game, but
You never played Rayman?
no, well, since I've done it, but before I was like, PC Master Race,
Okay.
strategy,
I see.
RTS, all the rest is crap.
Okay. Okay. So what would be fun is actually the people who are watching the show, if you can text us your favorite video games, and maybe we'll see if he has been working on it or not, or if we share
Most
the
likely
same
not.
the same favorite one. But is there what video games have you been working on? You mentioned Plant vs Zombies. You said you were working at Sony London for some PS2 and first PS3
Right.
games. So is there any famous games you've been working on?
Well, I worked on a Need for Speed game.
Need for Speed.
Yes, I worked at Sony. We were doing the first motion-based games.
Okay.
So before the Kinect, Sony had a camera
Yeah,
attached to the
the
PlayStation.
iToy.
iToy.
Yeah,
So
I remember.
I did iToy games. For them, was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah.
Really tiring because you make the game, and when you have to test, you have to spend an hour in front of the camera moving. by yourself. So it was exercising every day.
I remember like they used to have that game where you have to wash.
Yeah, the screen.
Yeah,
absolutely.
screen. Yeah. Right. So just like my first basic question would be like, how much time does it take to create a video game? Like the conception of a video game, how much time does it roughly take?
Roughly.
For a standard game, okay, let's say.
Standard game, I'd say 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And now it could be even longer. Standard game. So if you were talking about a PlayStation 4, Xbox games these days, I'd say it can take 3-4 years.
3-4 years
to make a game. Mobile game can take about a year.
Okay.
The simplest game you could do in 3 days, really.
Really?
If anybody played, Flappy Birds, one of the very
Angry
famous
Birds,
games.
right?
No, Flappy.
Oh, Flappy. Oh, yeah.
The birds that kept jumping. The guy did it in like 3 days. But otherwise, games can take at least a year, more.
But how do you cope, like, because with the evolution then of the console, of the gaming, of the computer, because like if you take like 2 years to make a game, then I guess like some console or even like some computer, they got like a lot of upgrades, right? So you know how to use the console or the computer better, but so you have to change like the details or something like that.
So for consoles, thankfully, the PlayStation 4 and Xbox, which one is it these days?
PS4.
No, 360? Sorry, there's a weird name, so I always get confused. Sorry, PlayStation guy here. So these days, like they have a life cycle of about 5 years or even more, 10 years sometimes.
Sure.
So usually you know what you're doing. On PC, you always try to make the highest hand graphics.
Okay.
When you start, because when you release your game 2 or 3 years after, that will become the default graphic card everybody can manage.
Okay.
But also on PC, usually you aim for the highest possible, and then you have the options to cut down some features for PCs that cannot support it.
Okay.
But yeah, usually you aim high.
Okay, I see. And nowadays, like since like every console like PS4 or Xbox like 360 or what's the name, right? Yeah, I'm also a PS guy. We can all play online, and so it happens that a lot of games they released, and then for like 1 week or 2 weeks there are a lot of bugs, a lot of things that are not fixed, and then after the studio they release like a patch thing.
Mm-hmm.
But like a lot of gamers are complaining because like they're buying the game, but it feels like it's not 100% finished. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Do you have anything to tell us about that? Like why it happened like that?
Right, so why this is happening is because the games these days are really, really big. Huge games, take a long time to do. I can tell you the people working on it, they don't work office hours, unfortunately. They do a lot of overtime to finish them. And any game most likely would be about 5 years, I'd say. Naughty Dog on PlayStation released recently Last of Us 2.
Oh, Last of Us 2.
I would say, I don't know exactly, but I'd say they spend at least 5 years on it, on average. I think it's a good guess. So what happens most of the time is you spend quite a lot of time in concept phase trying to find out what you want to do.
Okay.
With a smaller team, so we call it the core team. Mostly people will end up being the directors later, or leads. And so they discuss about the game, the tech, the content of the game, the scope of many things. And so a lot of time you keep talking, iterating, trying different things. You make a demo, you test it, you find out, oh, that's not that fun, so you make another demo and so on. And at some point, someone reminds you need to finish the game in 1 year. And so then everybody rushes to finish the game. But this game is so big, and there are so many systems working with each other that when people need to test the game, they don't have the time to fix all the problems. Especially on PC, because you have so many PC graphic cards, CPUs, and so on. So it's really hard for them to test all the different combinations. So yes, when the game comes out, you have to think on console. Let's say if your game is released in December, the game usually needs to be done in October. So they have the time to burn the game on disk, to do the packaging, the marketing, and so on. So during these 2 months, the team keeps working on debugging the game, they keep testing the game, they keep finding bugs.
Okay.
And of course, that new content cannot go on the disk.
Yeah.
So when you put the disk in your console, once you bought it, you get a patch because there's a 2 months work of testing and debugging the game. And even that sometimes is not enough to test, to fix everything.
Okay.
The issue is that most of the companies, will want to release the game at a very given time because they looked at the market. They say, okay, December is the best period to buy games, so we definitely want to release before Christmas.
Okay.
And so they cannot afford really to postpone the release of the game. There is marketing budget and so on.
Okay.
So the team has to finish at a given time, but they know there's still a lot of work behind.
Okay, so that actually leads to my second question. Do you have a lot of, is it like a very stressful environment to work in? Like, do you have a lot of stress, like when you have to release a game? Or,
Sure, there is stress. Well, first of all, there is normally a lot of fun. We're trying to make, fun games, so we all go in for the fun, and normally working in games is fun. However, we want to do really good games, so you stress yourself first, you put pressure on yourself to deliver quality.
Okay.
And I've worked with people who push themselves to do great work, so they will stay late to do really high quality work.
Okay.
Is that yours? No, it's
And then the quality of so also games, it's very hard to know when a game is going to be really fun, when the quality is rich. It's very hard to predict what will be the acceptable quality, when it will be done, when you're happy with it. So to reach that quality, you put a lot of pressure on yourself, you aim high, and once you finally have something you can play internally, you may not be so satisfied with it, and then you're like, oh, well, we need to change this and that, but the deadline didn't really move. You still have to release before Christmas, so now you have a lot more work. So definitely can be very stressful. There's a lot of stories about stressful productions.
Okay.
But in general, it's because people really want to deliver really high quality.
Okay, I see. So how is a normal day, at the office for you? How do you?
Right.
Can you
So
explain a little bit about your routine at work? Or?
well, so first I'll explain a bit my team. So I'm a producer, which is basically a project manager.
Okay.
But the producer is also in charge of the quality. So I have to review quality as well. But I work with engineers who are doing all the coding. I work with designers who are doing all the rules. Artists who are doing all the 2D and 3D assets. And so on. So we have a lot of people. So first day in the office is that when I come in, I look at the progress of our work.
Okay.
So we use a software to see what is everybody working on, and if they are working on the right priorities, and if they are late on time.
So putting pressure on people. Okay, understand.
No, tracking people.
Tracking, tracking.
And then we have a stand-up meeting in the morning, so we all meet up.
Okay.
And we discuss about our progress.
Every morning?
Yes.
Okay.
And we raise issues, we communicate. So that's in the morning. That's a ceremony we have in the morning. After that, so you have people in the team that will go work on the task.
Okay.
So usually people sit at the desk in front of their computer and work on the task, and some people are able to do that 8 hours a day. And then you have other people, mostly leads, producers, directors, who may have a lot of meetings.
Okay.
So I have some days where half of my day minimum is spent in meetings.
Okay. With other departments, or?
So it can be meetings on with other departments, leaders and directors to say, okay, we need to plan for the next big thing, or we need to talk about this issue. And we can just be a catch-up. It can be a lot of different things. Okay. Surprisingly, there is a lot of meetings. There is always a reason to have a meeting. Half a day could be spent for me on that meetings. The other half, I have some tasks for myself, which are often related to reviewing or planning, and so on, or reporting as well. And I do that at my desk in front of a computer.
Okay. And so yourself, what part of the project do you prefer to work on? Like, which part is the most fun for you, or the one that you like the most?
So when I was before, when I was a designer, I really enjoyed writing documents and rule sets and big documents with a lot of rules.
Okay.
I really enjoyed doing that. Or working in the, so we do games with using an engine, what we call an engine. Some of you may have heard of Unreal or Unity. So also, you go in it, it's an application, a software, and you go there and you make the game there. I really enjoy doing that. But as I got older, I started getting more responsibilities as a manager, as a lead, and then I really enjoyed organizing people, the work, making sure everybody has something to do and can work efficiently. And so now I would say I wouldn't like writing a document anymore. Actually, it's even painful to write like design documents. It's funny actually how you change as you get older. You find that out one day. So yeah, now what I like to do is check up with everybody and make sure we are on time, reaching quality. But the one thing I like the most over the 20 years is teamwork. You work with people from different departments, skill set, experience. You can talk about how to make a character in 3D. You can talk about how to code a certain feature, design rules. I remember at some point I was working on multiple projects in a previous company, and I had a meeting one in the morning about how to be a vampire, what it means to be a vampire, and in the afternoon it was how it is to drive a car realistically, because it was two different games. So you can talk about a lot of different topics, and it's really interesting. And the dynamics with people, talking with people, talking about problems and solutions, I like that a lot.
And that's exactly my next question. You were talking about people, and you said you've been working in London, now you're working in Shanghai, you've been like going for different studios. So I'm thinking, like, as a manager, how is it difficult to communicate and manage, like, I would say, like a cross-cultural team?
It's really difficult at the beginning.
Yes.
So I'm French. I studied in France.
If you have any tips you can share with people, maybe who are manager, who are like watching us.
I can say even just starting in England was difficult at the beginning.
Why?
Because the English people tend to be very constructive and positive. The French people we like to say, well, this is shit. What the hell did you do? We start with the negative, and down the line we may say, well, but that part was okay. English are more like American, but not as positive as American, but they like to be constructive.
It can be a bit cynical as well.
Yeah, exactly. But but they're not very direct. And so in England, for me, it was hard to stop being French and pointing problems first. I had to change that and say, oh yes, that part is great, blah blah. Oh, by the way, we should also look at that part. So that's one thing in France. In China, it's another story as well. The first thing in China, I think, is to be able to build trust with your team. That's very important.
Your team is fully Chinese?
Yes, fully
Chinese. I was going to say, how is the language issue? Do you speak in Chinese with them, or just English? Or
well, it depends, but currently most of my team cannot speak English, sorry,
sure.
And my Chinese is quite bad. So I have a translator.
Right.
And so in that particular company, mostly it's through the translator. But we're trying to also practice their English and my Chinese.
Oh, wait, you're having a translator and we didn't provide them to
no,
you?
I know.
Okay, so you have a translator and that's how you communicate with the... Okay,
Yes.
so that's the language thing. But how about the culture, like the way of working is different in China than in France, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, in France, when people say yes, usually they mean yes, because if they told you, merde before, they would have told you, merde, your idea is stupid. They would have told you that. So you know that when finally they say yes, they went through the entire process. In China, it's different. When they say yes, you have to know if the person trusts you enough to actually tell you the way it is. So you need to build trust with your team first. They need to know that they can speak openly with you and talk about problems and questions and so on. So that's very important. So the first thing I learned to do in China was, and at the beginning, it took me a while to realize, is to build a relationship and to show that yes, we're here to work together. We're here to face problems and find solutions, and we're one team. So that's the first thing: build the trust. The second thing, because my Chinese is so bad, and even with Chinese people, colleagues whose English was pretty good, it still you still have to be very careful about details.
Okay.
So I learned to...
The way of speaking to people, you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I learned to be very clear, very detailed on what I was asking or repeating to make sure that I'm extremely clear, because I may not realize I'm not being clear right now.
For
so
yourself, it's clear, but for other people, it's
exactly.
Not,
So I'm like, it's. I would say in China my English hasn't improved. I haven't learned new words and so on, but my plain English on how to explain things very simply has improved a lot and helped a lot.
Okay. And still talking about that, how would you describe the atmosphere like at work, like in a video game studio? How is it? Because we all have that idea of like, well, working in a video game studio is very fun, blah 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 blah. But
well, we're not. So first of all, we're not playing games all day.
Yeah,
because
that was my
believes
question
that.
after. We're actually playing video
So
games.
we're
during
not
work.
playing video games. And actually, I'd say a lot of people don't play video games in the game industry. But if you're an engineer, you don't necessarily want to work in a bank because that sounds like a boring job. But making really beautiful games sound more interesting, so they'll go for that.
Okay.
Doesn't mean really they play a lot of games.
Okay.
But yeah, I'd say half and half. Half of the people will play games and will play games during lunch and after hours. But no, during the office hours, we are focused on our PC screen and we are, on our keyboards all day.
Okay.
So it's pretty focused. There might be a lot of discussion, people moving around. Because it's very hard to work in a silo. Like, it's really hard to just do my task and that doesn't involve anybody else. So definitely you work as a team, so you may do something that requires someone else. So there's a lot of synergy between people. So they'll talk. You don't hear it because it's on QQ, but QQ is very active. Exactly. Back in the day when there was no messenger, people would have to talk, so it would have been a bit loud. But now it's QQ time.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like here. There's a lot of communication happening, but
exactly.
you don't hear it. It's
exactly.
just going back and forward.
But in general, the ambience is pretty relaxed and fun.
Okay.
But again, focused. We're definitely not playing ping pong all day or so on.
Because actually, like when you take a look at some like studios online, like Ubisoft or something like that, it's like an amusement park, like at their office, like they have like
it's like a playground, isn't it?
Yeah,
playground,
like
hammocks
and
pool
actually,
tables and.
I think kind of makes sense about what you were saying earlier. You said like they have to work like 8 hours in the computer. Some people can do it straight. Maybe some people need to take a break as well.
Yeah, no, sure. So companies want to create a fun environment and make you relax and have fun when you want to take a break, and you can take a break anytime. So yeah, I worked in companies that had ping pong tables, that had foosball and so on. And sometimes people do use it, but at the same time, not often. People, once they're inside their work, they enjoy what they're doing, so they don't necessarily want to leave their PC so much. But at the same time, you have people walking around and chatting or so on, so it's pretty relaxed as well.
Okay.
It's definitely not a factory. It's definitely a more fun environment than if you were going to a government office, I guess. But at the same time, we're professional. We're here to make games, and making games is very complicated. So we have to, work hard.
Okay. And talking about working hard, like since you have like years of experience, what would be like the major difficulty that you can encounter when you're like developing a game, like?
So the main difficulty is to get the result you expected.
Oh yeah.
So I like to compare, making games to cooking. So imagine you're making a pizza, but you never really tried before putting, cheese and chorizo before, or pepperoni before on a pizza dough, and you're like, oh, that sounds like a good idea, but I never tried it. Would it work? And then if you're lucky, your pizza comes out good when you taste it, and you're like, oh, that's good. Or you just try to, put some weird stuff on it, and it tastes horrible, and you're like, oh, we have to redo it.
Pizza theory, guys.
So no, that's the thing, is that we are mixing stuff together, we are building worlds, and we can only see the quality of it once it's playable.
Okay.
So it's really hard to, to be sure that what you do is good.
Yeah, of course.
And you can see that most of games that are coming out are not perfect, and it's not because the team, wanted to make the game this way necessarily, but they made the game. Maybe they ran out of time. Maybe they could not find the solution or so on. But it's really hard to get the quality you want. The second thing is, what is good quality for me may not be good quality for you.
Yeah, of course.
So again, I may make a game and I think, well, that's great, and you play it and you think it's bad. So it's hard to make games that your audience will like for sure.
Okay.
That's the second thing. The third thing is making games is complex because it involves a lot of people with different, skill set, a lot of technical challenges, and that can go wrong sometimes and take a lot more time.
Yeah.
So yeah. But the third thing, yes, it's just quality, making sure you deliver high quality.
Okay. And you were saying just earlier, you are building worlds, okay, which is actually true. But when a studio is approaching you, or a producer is approaching you to make a game, the sequel of a game or something like that, did they actually bring you a story or some kind of guidelines, or you guys build it from scrap or from A to Z? How does it work?
So well, we have all the possible scenarios. So right now, the game I'm working on.
You already have them. Or
Well,
you're
it
making
depends.
them?
It depends. So, for example, the game I'm working on, my company and the company that owns the Fallout franchise, IP, met at some point and thought, oh, why don't we make a game together?
Okay.
And so when they agreed to make this game, they went to the team and they say, okay, you need to make a free-to-play mobile game using the Fallout IP,
Okay.
and the sequel to Fallout Shelter.
Okay.
So that's a lot of cases are like that. It started as a business decision to say what kind of game could go with what kind of IP, famous, and will make us a lot of money.
Okay.
Otherwise, and especially for big companies, right? Because they don't necessarily want to create new stuff from scratch. Otherwise, you have teams that.
Because, for instance, earlier we were talking about Warcraft.
Yeah.
Stefan was talking about Warcraft. Warcraft 2nd, Warcraft 3rd, or blah 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 blah. But the first one, did actually the studio came to the producer came to the studio and be like, okay, we want to do a strategy game, in that kind of world, and they write everything.
Right. Okay. So it's not like movies. It's not like when you write a movie, you have the person writing the movie and then try to sell the idea to a studio.
Okay.
Like Universal, and Universal say, yeah, we like your script, we'll give you 100 million to make the movie. No, usually it's within the company.
Okay.
There is no external ideas. Within the company, they're like, hey, now we have a team, we want to make a game. What games do we want to make? And the idea may come from different places. The CEO of the company may be passionate and say, oh, I want to make a new strategy game or adventure game. And it comes from him. Okay. Or they say, oh, guys, what games could we make? And they could say, well, we've done a lot of racing games. That's what we're good at. Let's make a new racing game, and so on. So, but usually it's within a company. And I remember still a few years ago, you'd go on some game studio website, and they'll have a little warning saying we do not take ideas from other people from outside.
Okay.
Like if you have a game idea, don't send it to us. We won't even read it.
They want to keep their identity, kind of, right?
Yes, because it's their game, their studios. Trust me, a game company will have a lot of game ideas in the pipeline, so they don't need external people to give them more ideas.
Okay.
You have a game idea, make it yourself. That's better.
Okay, so if you guys have a game idea,
but start small.
And like a pizza, don't forget.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and now we can show you a little video about the development of one game. And Flo can comment it a little bit.
Right.
It's going to be just behind, so hold on for 1 second.
We'll try. As long as the VPN's still working and up and running. I think we're good. Is it this one, right?
Right, so just wanted to show you
Yeah.
a game will go into different stages.
Yeah, I think for, the camera is kind of
No, not on me, on the...
No, but it's opposite.
Oh,
No. What I'm going to do is I'm going to
right,
flip
it's,
I'm going to flip the camera. Oh God, do you remember how to flip the camera for on Eageable? Because we've only just started using this.
Well, it's okay if it's flipped.
That
It's
one.
not
No,
really.
it's that one there. It's that one there. That one there, right?
It's not really a problem if it's flipped.
Yeah, because if we and then we can move it around and then you can show us.
Okay.
And then I can just check that it's there. We go. Because then that way it's gonna.
I'm not going to the guy.
What's that?
Do we need to move a little bit? Can we switch?
I can see the part in the middle. I don't know. We'll see. You might have some.
Okay.
Not
Can you
in
see
the
properly?
screen for that. Yeah, that's fine for now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I'm showing you is what we call a gray box level.
Mhm. Yeah.
So basically, when you want to make a game, you never go for the final quality immediately.
Okay.
So
Right.
final quality means the final art,
Okay.
basically the final character models, animation, object, and so on.
Yeah.
So we could go through different rounds of prototyping. And of course, you want to prototype very quickly
Yeah.
and cheaply
Okay.
with very few people.
Okay.
So for example, when you build a world, you build what we call levels, which are different locations in the world. If anybody played, Counter-Strike,
Different maps.
exactly, Dust and so on. And so this is, what actually a first level would look like.
That's the first stage.
This is the first stage will be on paper.
Okay.
usually.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And the second stage will be in 3D, but this is what we call gray box.
Okay.
It's just made of boxes,
Oh, yeah,
that are
actually, yeah, they're
really
boxes, yeah.
ugly.
I see. Yeah.
But you can already, so you build this in 3D, you build it very quickly,
Okay.
and you can already play this. So it's
Okay.
built in the engine, and you can play it, and you can test a lot of things. So for example, here you have different criteria at this stage. You can already say, well, do I understand where I am in general?
Okay.
Do I get lost or not?
A
Is it
castle, I
easy
guess.
to navigate? Yes.
Mhm.
Is the space, good for me to move around and give me good choices? And is the level fun? So if this was for a multiplayer game, you can already, test it with friends and say, well, is this fun?
Oh, that's not gray box anymore.
No, so this is not gray box. So when the level designers have, tested, built, iterated, and say, okay, this is fun enough now, the artist will come in and start to decorate the level. So again, they will start phase by
Well,
phase.
just in case an artist is someone who is making like all the little details, like
Oh,
on
yes,
the
sorry.
logo with artists, like I want like a dead tree kind of, and he's integrated the dead tree inside the video game.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, so they will put, and again, the artist will not put everything at once in it. If there is at the end, I don't know, 100 trees, at the beginning they just put maybe 5 trees, just to give you an idea that, well, there will be trees there. There is a little road, a little path, but they will not put a fence necessarily, or little rocks or little grass. They will just give you a better sense of where you are,
Okay.
right, of the direction of
And
the place.
that's already an advanced stage of the conception of the video game, or that's still the early stage?
So,
it looks quite good for me already, but
Right,
since
yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
an
I mean, it
expert.
all looks
So however,
pretty real, yeah.
at this stage the game is playable,
Yeah.
meaning that you already have a character that can move around and use actions. So I would say this is maybe for a shooting game. So
Okay.
you can already play you can already play a character that is running around and shooting at stuff. You may already have some basic enemies that will shoot at you back and so on. So if it's multiplayer, the game is already playable in multiplayer. So yeah, the core of the game is done. You may not have all the features. The character, when he's moving, may not be moving in as smooth as the final version. The weapon, you may not have all the weapons. You may
Okay.
just have few weapons. They may not look great even.
Okay.
They could also be made of blocks, the first weapons.
Okay.
As long as a shotgun shoots like a shotgun and AK-47 behaves the same, you don't need the final model of the weapon. So that could be quite in the middle of the game, I would say. This will be in the middle of the production when you started to put art in it.
So alpha level.
Yes, alpha level.
Okay.
Alpha means is we're making the game, but it's not finished yet.
Okay.
Right, and so you can see the artist
Oh,
will
nice.
add layers, different
Oh, yeah,
things,
cool.
lighting. Lighting is usually what we do at the end
Yeah.
Okay.
because it's the most complex part.
Oh.
Sorry, not the most complex part, but it's very complex. And you don't want to You don't want to light and relight every day.
Is there a little
Sorry.
loose connection there?
Sorry.
There we go.
So yeah, so this is a good example of how a game evolves, and now they're starting to use the same for movies actually, using our game tools to make movies. Like Unreal is being used to make a lot of movies these days.
Okay. Okay. And maybe they have like the final stage of the video here. Of the game.
Yeah, I think.
We can take a look. Looks like a Far Cry. No, a Far Cry 5 a little bit.
Yeah, so this will be, I think, the final quality of that particular game. So you can see you have the background, the sky, with the light that goes with the light on the clouds. So it's a sunset, I would assume. You can see the far now is a bit more foggy, so you have distance. Because the term, when you're foggy in the distance, there's a term for that. There's still a bit ugly here. You can see here there's a straight line. So that would not be final quality.
No, I don't see it, but it does because it's an expert.
Yeah, you would put little grass here, or you will improve the
It looks
the
a little bit
textures.
too fake, maybe.
Exactly.
Maybe you just
And it's, I would say, I would not say this is final because it doesn't really look like anybody lived here. There is nothing outside. Put a little chair, a bit more trash and so on.
Okay.
So yeah, it's not far from
It's
final.
lacking details, right? That's
Yes.
what I mean,
Yeah, so that's why games these days take so long.
Yeah.
It's about all the details. Like, I worked on games where people would look at the grass here and say, well, this grass should not be here because there is no water next to it.
Yeah.
Or there are rocks underneath, so grass should not grow on rocks, or so on. So,
So you could spend like a couple of hours just on some tiny little part.
couple of months.
A couple of months.
No, yeah,
so-
you can spend a lot of time. Like for example, you say, okay, this is fall, I suppose, so there is no leaves in the trees, but I suppose here I can see leaves falling down, and so all the trees will have the same. You can see here, and this is an old game definitely, but they will. So the visual storytelling. So basically, the art has to tell you a story, even if there is no character here standing telling you who he is and where are you. The environment should tell you a story. So you can guess you're in fall, it's a sunset, this house looks abandoned because you have the planks across. You seem to be in the US, I would say, because of this mailbox. There is a tree that fell, so it looks like not only the house is abandoned, but the entire place.
Or something.
Exactly.
Walking Dead.
Yeah, exactly. A bit post-apocalyptic.
There's the water tank here. Like
Yeah, the water tanks, so definitely the US.
Is that a fallen tree or something?
Yeah, it's
over
a
there,
fallen tree.
So probably Montana on the early 80s or something.
Exactly. So visual storytelling is what takes a lot of time now, and photorealism. So now people try to make games that look exactly like real life. That's where we're going to, and that takes an insane amount of time to do.
Okay, that's why we call them artists.
Yes. And trust me,
Now you get them.
there's a lot of artists. Like I worked on games where people would, look at the way the light bounces off this and say it doesn't bounce properly. And they have very advanced technologies to make sure that it looks realistic.
Okay.
Yeah, it's insane. I worked with people who could see problems that I had no idea were there. And I could not see the difference at all, but some people had a really good eye for that. And so console games these days, I would say, are really complex things to do.
So actually, then like if I'm following what you're saying, before on the former generation of console and computer, they had less details, right?
Yes.
Because they just couldn't do it because of the power of the
Yes.
of the engine and everything. So they released the game like faster in the previous generation.
Yes. Yeah, definitely a game would have been done faster. Before 10 or 20, 10, 15, maybe 20 years ago, it would have been 1-2 years. No, definitely, I would say 5 years if you want to make a new console game.
And do you really think like the players they really take care of like, oh, there is a rock and there's grass below, so we shouldn't be there? Or
No, so yes and no.
Okay.
The really geeky guys, surely they're
Well,
probably a bit critical, but
So,
others probably
actually-
don't care.
You don't notice it necessarily, what makes the experience. Like if you say, well, this game was really immersive and beautiful, you couldn't really say why. but the person who made it will explain to you why, because they really build the immersion. So that, you make it believable through the details. And before, games were super simple, so you left a lot to people's imagination, right, when you play. But now you want to show them, so they don't they feel immediately immersed, and they don't have to think about it so much. But yeah, the quality of the game now is really in the details. So players will not necessarily notice it. Actually, you may spend a lot of time on a little piece of corridor, and you may spend 1 month on it and have a lot of debates on, the mud is at the right place, the right texture, the light, the grass, and so on. And actually, players will just run through it. Right? It takes 5 seconds. But no, they will see it, they will feel it, but they won't necessarily stop. But at the same time, if they stop, they will be amazed. Right? I played games where at some point I just stopped and looked around and like, wow, this is amazing. So we do it also for these players.
That's actually true what you're saying, because I remember like the other day we were talking about Far Cry 5. For those who played it, it happened in Montana in the United States, and it actually looks so realistic. And the story is something that can happen in nowadays world. So when you're playing, you're like, oh, that can happen. So yeah, you really get like in it actually, and it's you enjoy more playing. So that's actually true what you're saying.
Yeah. So making games now is so complex that we use a lot of software to help us. So trees, for example, we don't do trees anymore. There is a software.
A tree software.
There is a tree software that will build trees for you.
Just basically taken from real trees.
Exactly.
Emulated from.
And even now, we're going to use AI more and more to do simple tasks like AI will, place the grass in a believable manner. So you don't have someone who has to go and put the grass one by one.
So one by one.
Yes. So or you just brush it, but and then when you have a big brush, and then you go back and say, oh, but this one is on a rock, I remove it, and so on. So you did spend time. So that's why companies are looking into AI, so that the people can focus on the important thing, and the AI will manage all the small but numerous tasks.
Okay, well, that's nice. It's kind of like the proofreader kind of.
I guess, It sort of reminds me of when you first do a job and you're working for a company, like at the beginning, it might be your first year and you're really proud of something. It's all finished, here we are already, and then some guy comes in and says, no, that's totally wrong.
That's the French guy.
No, exactly. That grass is nowhere near ready. It's not detailed enough. There's no mud underneath it. There's no colour in the grass. It doesn't reflect the weather and all those kind of things. And then the guy's like, oh no.
They'll have to redo. But at the same time, it's a very interesting conversation to have, because you're learning as well as you're learning. So this is 3D objects. You may think that 3D objects these days have a lot of faces, polygons are very complex, but actually there are techniques to paint on the object. So the object is actually quite simple, but looks super detailed after. So we have tons of software.
Wait, it actually looks like Minecraft a little bit. No, it's not using the same engine.
No.
Okay.
This is Unreal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I can see the boxes. That was nice. Okay. Very great.
Anything else in that video?
I don't know if you have any other questions.
Just wondering if there's anything else in that video that's worth looking at. Or?
Well, this guy is a guy who's teaching people who want to make maps, how to do them. So you'll have a lot of tutorials on internet on how to make games.
There's a guy here.
Yeah. Again, it's what we call a placeholder, which is there to test.
So I guess with the football videos now, they actually bring the players in, don't they? And, and actually kind of film them playing football, and then they just kind of get there. Because when I used to play football games, it was just.
Yeah, no, exactly. So before it was.
They look so natural now. The way they do the moves.
Yeah, a lot of things. For example, a rock. We may not ask an artist to build a rock anymore, because people went outside in nature, outdoor, and photographed rock. They scanned rock from every other angle, and then they provide you the rock and the really perfect texture, and so you just bring the rock in. So because the requirements are so high now that it's not possible for one person to mimic nature, so they need a lot of help. So we have tons of software that help people create this photorealistic look. Look, and animation is the same thing. So before you had one person, moving the puppet frame by frame, but now we do, mock up a football player moving around, kicking the ball, and we bring it into the game.
I don't know if anyone has any questions.
Okay, great. At the moment, it's a little bit quiet, so so we've had Stefan earlier, but there doesn't seem to be anyone else at the moment. So a few people, there might be some Chinese people going in and out and not understanding what we're saying.
But thank you for showing us that. That was actually pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have any other questions.
Yeah, Stefan says so I don't know, maybe we're waiting for him to send another one in before we go.
But,
yep, he's still here. He says it's very interesting. But I think we're going to wrap it up very shortly. So, but it's been amazing, really interesting. Yeah.
So I hope you guys
learned a lot. Yeah, absolutely.
I hope you guys enjoyed the session of today with gaming expert Flo.
Thank you for having me.
The background of how we create a video game, the atmosphere in a video gaming studio, and we see you next week. And if you have any other question for Flo, you can ask them on the WeChat group.
Yes, I joined.
Any further questions? Don't hesitate.
If you want to know how you can teach your kids to make games, they'll love it, and it's really good for them because it helps them.
Yeah, one very quick
logic.
question about that. I've noticed there's quite a few coding places where around Shanghai where kids can go when they're really, really young to start learning code.
Yes.
Do you know much about those places? Because I see them like when I walk around the shopping malls. And
Not
things.
so. I don't know any specific one,
I know
but
one.
I'd recommend it in general.
But they learn one Python?
No, they learn simpler ones, visual language in general. But it's good for kids. Well, first because coding, I think it's going to be a primary skill in the next 20 years. when they grow up.
Yeah. I'm surprised it isn't already.
Exactly, and it's great for logic thinking, for creative thinking. It's a fantastic thing. So definitely something I want to teach my own kids to do. And making games is a fun way to learn a lot of things and use your brain in a really creative way. So Minecraft is a great tool for that. And there's also a lot of stuff your kids can play with to not have fun, but also learn a lot of things, which is the most important thing for parents, especially in China.
And how many coding languages do you actually write?
Me, none.
Okay.
I tried to learn a lot of them, but I'm not good at it.
Okay.
So, but I tried 2 or 3, but I gave up.
Okay.
But I understand it helped me understand the basic of coding, so I can talk a bit with engineers and understand their work.
Okay. Cool. But cool.
Great.
Great.
Okay, super.
So see you guys.
Yeah, thanks
Thank
for
you.
tuning in,
Have a good
everybody.
evening.
And have a good evening.
See you next week.
We'll see you all next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.